Welcome to Capitol Preview, a weekly bipartisan discussion with Iowa legislators about the key issues facing our state. Brought to you by Mediacom.
Welcome to another edition of Capitol Preview, a public service program brought to you by Mediacom, where we talk about issues important to Iowans with our state representatives. Our guest today is Representative Jake Highfill, Republican from Johnston. Jake, welcome to Capitol Preview. I'm just going to kind of jump right in. We talked a little bit about the session of this State House, and when do you think it's going to wrap up? I mean, do you think we're on track?
Knock on wood, Bill, but I think we're right on time. April 19th is the last paid day we have, and it'll be 100 days this year. I think we're going to finish on time.
What are the big things that are going on in the next 2 weeks that you guys want to wrap up?
The biggest thing is the only constitutional thing we have to do is pass a budget.
Right.
That's always the most important.
Yeah.
And so we're coming together. We have a Democratic Senate, and we have a Republican House and a Republican governor, but we're working together. We're going to spend less than we take in this year, like we always have since we took power in 2010. As we move forward to that, the other side of the aisle has come along to that, and we're working together to get some compromises and where the spending and the allocation goes. And hopefully we can get done by April 19th this year. As you know, the last few years we've gone over, and it's never fun to go over. We should try get in there, do what's very important to the people, do the people's work, and get home as soon as possible.
I think you guys have done a great job this year in getting those things done.
Well, we've been working on this for a few years now, and it gets better every year. So hopefully this is where we're heading, and knock on wood, but I think it's going to happen this year.
Yep. I know there's a bill up there that you have introduced,
yes,
right? You have sponsored. It's the county bill, and it's about consolidation of our county governments.
Yes.
Why don't you kind of give us a little?
Well, right now Iowa has 99 counties, and when we have 99 counties, the goal was to be able, within a horse's day ride, your county courthouse.
Right.
Well, now with modern transportation and the internet, we don't need to be that close to the courthouse all the time. We don't go to the courthouse as much as we used to. Plus, you can pay your fees, your DOT, everything else is online now. So we really don't need to go to the courthouse nearly as often. So I think one of the ways we could be a good steward of the taxpayers' money and make sure we allocate all the resources we have available is by consolidating services in counties. There's a lot of counties in Iowa throughout the state that are in counties of 5,000 or 6,000 people, maybe 10,000. That's a lot of property taxes on those people, just having the same services that a county like Dallas or Polk would have. So moving forward, I want to make sure that we give that right to the people to consolidate their services. I think one of the best thing they can do is maybe not always consolidate down to their courthouse, but share an assessor, share what they have going on. That would save a lot of taxpayer dollars, and I think that's the way we go. To make sure that people want to do it, this takes a constitutional amendment, which people that don't know, to pass a constitutional amendment in the state of Iowa has to pass 2 general assemblies, just like a normal bill would. Then it also has to be voted on by the people with a majority. So once it gets there, and then what happens is, currently my bill, which I'd be willing to amend to accommodate people, and we knock it down to 40 counties, and the people would get to choose where their county services would be and what moves online and where we are moving the new location. So that's kind of where the area I'm headed. I know it's a long shot. It's not going to happen this year, maybe probably not next year either. But moving forward, I think it's a conversation we need to have and not keep our head in the sand. It's very important to have these tough conversations, and I know everybody loves their county courthouse, but having these conversations, realizing that it would be better off for the taxpayer and better off for our resources is a very important conversation to have.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept, and I think I do think that'd be a huge savings for the taxpayer. So Jake, how would that work with like courthouses? Would you still try and maintain all 99 courthouses, or?
Well, it would depend on the county.
Yeah.
Right now, the way the bill is currently written, it would be a vote of the people. So say you have 2 counties. Let's just use Dallas and Polk. This is where I live.
Yep.
Say you have one in the middle. We could put one right in the middle and consolidate those 2 counties to make it easier. Or say you're in a smaller county and you need, you're going to have one do this and one do that, but you're going to share an assessor, you're going to share an auditor, you're going to share different services. So they only have one. You can keep the courthouse still, but you share the supervisors. Also, a lot of those counties don't need 5 supervisors, and so
Right.
they can. Some of them already do this now, but they have 3 supervisors. So knock it down to have share supervisors over 2 or 3 counties, which would be another less jobs on the payroll, less everything else. So that's kind of how we do it. There's a lot of up in the air, and I give a lot of power back to the people to vote on how their services are provided.
Yep. Very interesting. The next thing I know that you're working on too, and I think it's an interesting one, is the Second Amendment. Why don't you kind of go through that and tell people that don't know at home the Second Amendment, what that involves?
Well, we've been working on a lot of Second Amendment bills over the last few years. This is my 4th year up there, and I know since the House Republicans took majority in 2010, 6 years now, we have been passing pro-Second Amendment language that will help out our law-abiding citizens of the state of Iowa. So we have not got a bill passed out of both chambers in 6 years until this year. Last week we passed the suppressor bill. The suppressor bill is a bill it's a hearing protection bill. It's not like you see in the movies where it's silence and everything else, but it brings down the noise level so you can shoot inside tunnels and crosswords.
Yep.
And a lot of law enforcement are the ones that want this the most. You have to go through a federal background check from the Firearms Act of 1934. Once you get approved there, you pay a fee, and then you can buy suppressors that way. I think it's a great way to have hearing protection, because you've seen a lot of like my grandpas, they never wore hearing protection growing up,
Right.
shooting guns all the time,
Yep.
and they have no hearing now.
Right.
So I think moving forward, we need to be safe. We need to have hearing protection and suppressors that muffle the sound so we can make sure we are safe using our firearms. And I think it's a great bill. The governor's going to sign the bill Thursday, so it's a big win for the Second Amendment.
Very good.
We've passed some other bills out there too, but that's the one that's passed, and we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how much our Second Amendment encompasses. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
There's a lot of stuff
that
going
you
on.
work on that like you do.
It's a very important issue. I think it's an issue that a lot of Iowans are very passionate about.
Yep.
I get hundreds of
I think so.
emails from the district every year on the same issues, and I'll tell you what, there's a very good grassroots movement there.
Yeah, yeah. And then the one that I know that I think everybody up there in some way or form, whether they're active in the committee or just are curious about, is that medical cannabis bill. And
The medical cannabis oil bill is all over the place. I think it's something we need to do. I think it's something we're behind on. I think it's something that it's almost immoral to have we make decisions for doctors. I'm against Obamacare because I don't like the doctors telling us how to do this. I'm against the regulation of this because I believe it can be a medicine, and I believe it can be used for the betterment of these people. So I firmly believe that we're working towards a bill. There is a bill out there that passed Commerce. The bill is very exclusive to who can use it and whatnot. I think we should expand the bill a little bit and allow, right now it's very difficult to get it done, but we want to do MS, different diseases that we know will help the seizures and will also help PTSD for veterans, different issues like that. So we want to look into those issues and make sure we do it right by Iowa. As you know, Iowa does a lot of good things right, and the rest of the country looks at us and makes sure we do things right. So hopefully we can get a good bill passed this year and get it out of both chambers, and the governor will sign it. We have a lot of personal stories that come up there all the time. Everybody has somebody in their district that has a family member that's affected by this, and so we think that moving the ball forward would really help. We wish the federal government would do more so we can deschedule the drug, so we can not always worry about it and making, for the most part, generally law-abiding citizens, parents in our communities, criminals, and that's wrong. So I think that we can keep moving the ball forward and hopefully get a good bill passed this year.
and that's interesting, Jake, is so why is the federal government dragging their feet on this or not taking the lead?
Well, it's
on
a federal
something
government
like
bill.
this?
Let's just be completely honest here. They're always way behind other bills. The popular opinion for medical cannabis is the polling is incredible. I've seen 70-80% polling for this.
Yeah.
The federal government still has it scheduled as a class 1 drug, which would mean that's the same as meth and heroin, which means it has no medical benefits. And I'm pretty sure we're past that point where we think that we can prove that it has medical benefits. And right now we can't test that. So if you deschedule the drug, you are able to legally test in universities and in pharmacy labs where we can test to see the benefits and the properties of medical cannabis oil. This bill, what would pass right now, is only oil. It is not smoking or anything like that. It's just the oil. So you can't even get the high effects off the medical cannabis oil. So we're really looking forward to the bill, and we really wish the federal government, I kind of want to pass a resolution to the federal government asking them to work on this issue moving forward. So we really have it, but right now that we have to deal with, and I don't want to always, say, as we're doing Iowa's way, but we're a sovereign state, and I firmly believe that we could move forward without their permission.
Well, and you should be proud of yourself, because I think both the House and the Senate have done a good job on this. It's a complicated issue, and I think you've kind of gone it alone a little bit, because the federal government is lagging behind. So
Yes.
I mean, what you've done should be applauded. Coupling, I know that is a hot issue, and you guys have passed the coupling.
We passed the original coupling back in January.
Right.
The Senate kind of sat on it for a while,
Right.
and they had a few concerns with it because of the revenue problems. But we looked at it like this: we're not going to make adjustments. It's a good tax policy. It has been a good tax policy. We're conforming to the federal government's policy on deductibility. So when they pass something for machinery, for small business, for farmers, and for teachers, we want to make sure they can write that off on their taxes and make sure they're doing it correct. We finally got it passed last week, and we also got a consumables bill, which just allows manufacturers to write off their consumables so we don't double tax those. That's a huge win for Iowa. It's almost $110 million tax savings, and we think that that's the best way to go forward. We had numerous emails from accountants, manufacturing, teachers in my district asking for this bill. Once we finally got it, it passed 50-0 in the Senate. So I believe it with a little over 80 votes in the House, members that count. That's a huge win for the taxpayers.
huge.
And we really think that moving forward that we should make it permanent and make sure we have it all the way going ahead.
Jake, the other thing I wanted to kind of follow up with you a little bit is the income tax cut. You might want to tell our folks at home kind of what that involves.
Right now, all 4 years I've been up there, I've been working hard to cut the tax burdens of Iowa. I have not been shy about my income tax cut bill. I have phased out the income tax completely. 9 out of 10 states right now that are growing are creating 65% of the jobs have no income tax. It is a great opportunity to move forward, because right now we have to compete against other states. South Dakota, Nebraska, and Missouri don't have income taxes. So when we compete for businesses and jobs and people to come here, it's a lot easier to say we're just like them. Instead of always having Debbie Durham and Governor Branstad campaign and give huge incentives to these companies, instead we can just say, hey, look at our corporate tax structure, look at our income tax. That's a way better way to do it, in my opinion. So moving forward, I really think that we should lessen the tax burden in Iowa. And also, I believe it will stimulate the jobs. I believe when you put more money back in the hardworking taxpayers of Iowa, they can move the ball forward and spend the money. It's their money in the first place. Let them spend it how they choose. And cutting back on all classes, middle class, poor, wealthy, is okay with me. I firmly believe that they know better how to spend their money than we do.
Yeah. Very good. I'm going to ask you, we're kind of coming to that time where we're following up with, or we're coming to the end of the show. But I've got to ask you, I know that you're heavily involved in politics, or you wouldn't be a state representative. Just real quickly, can you kind of give me in a 10-second thumbnail thing about how you feel about the presidential election? And
Interesting. I would say this: everybody that's been in politics would never predicted what's happening now, and I'll call anybody a liar who says that, because everybody's probably like, "Oh, Trump will fade off in a month or so," and he hasn't, and so we'll see what happens. And the other side of the aisle, Bernie Sanders coming out of nowhere with 5% name ID and almost winning Iowa, that's also crazy to me. I still think it's going to be a brokered convention for the Republicans, and I don't think Trump was our nominee. We'll find out. I don't know. Could be wrong, but there was a lot of good candidates. We had too many candidates, but there's a lot of good ones when we first started.
Absolutely.
And some of them dropped off early, and I think Hillary's a nominee for the Democrats, and we'll see what happens, who our nominee is, and what happens in the general election.
Very good. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Bill, for having me.
Our guest today has been Jake Highfill, Republican from Johnson. And please stay tuned for another episode of Capitol Preview.